Happy Homemade Kitchen Restock. We have a big day today. I'm making bagels, pizza bagels, caramel syrup, cheddar cheese, refrigerator pickles, cream of soup mix, and bread oil seasoning, which are two new seasoning mixes that I think I'm gonna make into labels and add to my shop. So this is my Restock notebook. Over here I write everything that I'm gonna make. And then to the left, I do the steps that I'm gonna do. So like I'm gonna make the double batch of bagel dough first, and then I'm gonna start with the caramel syrup, then I'm gonna shred cheese while that's going, make the pickles while that's going, and then by the time I'm done with that, I should be ready to shape my bagels, and then they'll proof. Then I'll make the cream of soup mix, make the bread oil seasoning, and then the bagels will be ready to boil and then bake, and then I can assemble the pizza bagels after that. And then on the bottom are any recipes. So like this is the cream of label that the recipe that I'm pretty positive is good that I need to test one more time. And then this is a recipe for bread oil seasoning that I think is going to be good. I do know I want to make some tweaks to this, so we'll see how it goes. I have my dehydrator going. So in my dehydrator, I've got some herbs from the garden that I cut yesterday. I've got some red hot peppers that I'm going to dehydrate to later turn into like a hot pepper powder. And then I've got some pickles in there that I'm gonna make a pickle seasoning for. Yeah, doing good. Let's go pick an apron. It's super dark at my house right now, which I kind of like. There's a thunderstorm going on. Is it a macaron day, a floral day, apron that's made out of dyed wheat sacks? I'm feeling it's a floral day today, which is of course the one on the bottom. Hope you enjoyed that in super dark lighting. All right, let's get going.
Come spend the day with me restocking my kitchen. This took about 3 hours total. I didn't quite get everything on my list done, but that's okay. I started off by making my bagel dough. This is one of my favorite recipes in my cookbook. I make it with sourdough discard. It's really easy, and it has all ingredients that I keep in my kitchen on a regular basis. You also don't need to make this with a mixer if you want to just do it by hand. I would recommend a Danish dough whisk if you do want to make doughs by hand. It just makes it so much easier. You can get one for less than $10. And right here is when I started listening to Taylor Swift, so there's no more video audio. Sorry about that. But after the dough started to pull from the bowl being mixed, I added a lid and then let it sit and rise on my counter. It takes about an hour and a half. So while I was waiting for that to rise, I got started with my coffee syrup. I use the same base recipe for the most part for syrups. This is going to be salted caramel, but I start with equal parts sugar and water, and then I simmer it on low for about 30 minutes just to develop the caramel flavor. If you're not doing caramel, you can just simmer for about 5 minutes until the sugar dissolves. So this is what I mean when I say that I stack my recipes. I almost always just have several recipes going on in the kitchen at once, and this does take a bit of practice to get the hang of. If you're new to doing restocks or you want to do restocks in the future, my biggest advice is to always pick one recipe and master it and then add on to it. So I've also started making our own cheddar cheese blend. We use this from everything from tacos to cheese for baked potatoes. And this is also the same cheese that we use for our bagels. And to make this blend, I usually do 2 parts sharp cheddar cheese, 1 part Colby Jack, and 1 part pepper jack, but you can customize that with any sort of cheese. I really like this KitchenAid shredder attachment, but sometimes the cheese does get stuck, so I just turn it off and use a fork to get it out. It's super easy and is a lot quicker to use with very minimal effort. If I had to do this by hand, I would probably not be doing it. Cheese also always gets stuck in this spot in between, and pepper helps me out with that. I pay the cheese tax, and I always think of the trending sound that's like, it's like a reward. But if you haven't tried shredding your own cheese, it's something I definitely recommend. It's really easy, it doesn't take a lot of time, and the flavor is so much better. I also use the biggest grater attachment, so I end up with these really big pieces of cheese, and it's honestly so good. This is also just a lot more cost effective. The blocks of cheese are almost always on sale at our local grocery store. Bags of cheese are never on sale, the shredded cheese. So for us, cost per ounce, it's a lot more cost effective. Blocks of cheese are also good in the fridge for a really long time, and once you shred the blocks of cheese, supposedly they're only good for about 2 weeks. So I usually do 8 ounces pepper jack, 8 ounces Colby Jack, and then 16 of cheddar cheese, and that's enough to last us about 2 weeks. The only actual annoyance that comes with shredded cheese is that it sticks together, but this can be solved with a very little amount of cornstarch. You just need the smallest amount. I usually do about a teaspoon for all of this cheese, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but it just helps it not cake together. And then these get stored in airtight containers, and we go through this much cheese in about 2 weeks. We have a lot of tacos. And apparently you can also freeze it. I haven't tried it. I'm a little afraid if there will be a texture change. I got this crinkle cutter mostly to make bread and butter pickles, but I can also make stuff like french fries with it, and I'm so excited. I also had some garden cucumbers in the fridge that really needed to be used up, so I tried a recipe with zesty bread and butter pickles. I did not share the recipe because I actually was not a big fan of this, but I did find the recipe in the Ball Book of Preserving if that actually interests you. I am searching for a recipe that's as good as the Wegmans bread and butter pickles. Haven't found one yet. By this point, my caramel coffee syrup was looking really good, so I added some vanilla extract. I usually err on the side of more vanilla extract because I like the flavor. And then I just add a sprinkle of Diamond kosher salt. And then I just stir to make sure everything's really well combined. And then once it cools mostly down, it goes into a mason jar and in the fridge. And this was the pickle brine that I had going at the same time. I also let this cool down before it got poured over the cucumbers. And then these specifically needed to sit in the fridge for at least 24 hours.
So my bagel dough is almost ready. It's just starting to puff up. It's almost ready. I would not be able to do these restocks if I didn't clean as I go. So pretty much everything that I'm done with is going to go into the dishwasher.
It is definitely true that homemade restocks produce a lot of dishes, but I do find that I do a little bit less dishes during the week. And of course, it's always a struggle to try to get Pepper to not like the dishwasher. Anyway, staying on top of dishes as I go has been huge, and it also means I don't have a mountain of dishes to clean up once I'm done.
Now my kitchen feels clean again and I can actually keep going.
By this point, my dough had doubled in size and I was ready to shape it. This is a double batch of dough. Half of it I turned into just normal bagels. The other half I made into smaller bagels that I turned into pizza bagels later on. If you're using sourdough discard in this recipe, you can also ferment the bagels for longer. Just put the dough once it's doubled in size into the fridge and then you can shape them later. I usually like to get back to the dough within 24 hours. And as always, I boil them. I do always skip the egg wash though. I've never actually found it necessary. My bagels still go pretty golden brown in the oven. You can also substitute it for a little bit of olive oil. And then I always make sure that I have baking soda in the water that I'm boiling them in. And then flip them after about 30 seconds. My regular bagels got cheese on top of them. And my smaller ones that I'm turning into pizza, I didn't actually put holes in them. Honestly, sauce and cheese would have just fallen through. This was quicker and it's easier. After everything is boiled, it goes into the oven to bake for about 20 to 25 minutes. I let everything cool down, and then I always slice my bagels before I freeze them. This is so much easier when I go to defrost them. And I keep them in the freezer. It just keeps them good for longer, and we toast them in the toaster oven in the morning, so it doesn't really make a difference if they're frozen or not. And then I sliced the little pizzas in half and then added some sauce and some cheese, and then I flash freeze these. So after preparing them, I just keep them right on the pan, pop them in the freezer for about an hour, sometimes 2, and then I will portion them into bags. This is essential to not making a mess. The sauce will truly get everywhere. And then to reheat these just end up going into our toaster oven. And that's all I did today. I did not finish everything on my ambitious list, but that's okay. Some weeks I don't finish everything that I want to do. Some weeks I add a bunch of stuff in the middle and end up doing a lot more than I anticipated. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it was helpful. If you want to see more in this format, let me know. It's a new format and I kind of like it. As always, if you liked this video, be sure to subscribe and check out my other platforms on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Happy restocking and see you next time.